Our buddy Jeff Risdon joins us on a Tuesday episode of Locked On Lions.
You are Locked On Lions, your daily Detroit Lions podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And what's happening, everybody? Matt Dery with you on a Tuesday edition of Locked On Lions right here on the Locked On Podcast Network. Indeed, your team every day. It's a Tuesday, August 15th and a Wednesday, August 16th. Jacksonville Jaguars coming in for a couple of joint practices Wednesday and Thursday. And then, of course, the Saturday 1 o'clock preseason game number 2 at Ford Field. Joining us today, Jeff Risdon, LionsWire.com, USA Today. I'll read Jeff every single day and always talk about the work that he does, and joins us today here on the pod. JR, great to see you, buddy.
Good to be with you. Thanks for having me in.
What's happening? How you feeling about the squad, and how much fun are you having covering this edition this year so far?
This year, and I get asked that question a lot, and it's I can honestly say it's the most fun I've had in a training camp. Like, I've been around a lot of other teams, not just the Lions. I've been with Cleveland, with Houston, with the Colts for a camp. There is an energy and a buzz and I don't want to say a quiet confidence, because it's louder than that, but there's just a real feeling from everybody in the organization, and all the national reporters that come through absolutely feel it too. This is a good football team, and the expectations should be raised, and they're ready for that. And that makes me very happy.
Follow Jeff on Twitter at Jeff Risdon. Follow us at Dery Speaks, at Locked On Lions. And of course, please subscribe on our Locked On Lions YouTube channel. Getting up to those 7,000 subscribers, which we wanted. We appreciate you guys making us your first listen. And shout out to thank you, Jeff, the everydayers as well for checking us out. Jeff wrote something. I want to start with this. You got to find angles. I know you do each and every day. And I always kind of tout Jeremy and Eric and the guys at Pride of Detroit as well for doing this. But really liked your piece on Kelvin Shepard. Linebacking situation might just be that where this thing turns defensively. Don't you think, Jeff? And a lot of it has to do with what Shep has done with that group, huh?
He's a phenomenal coach, and it's been obvious for a while. We got a chance to interview him at the 2022 Senior Bowl, not this last one, but the one before that. And as soon as the camera was done, as soon as the mics were off, my co-host and I, we looked at each other and we're like, that guy's going to be a head coach soon. Like, he just gets it. He's got the positive enthusiasm. He isn't afraid to get on guys, but he's teaching them. He's not just yelling, like, do better. He's like explaining how they can do better. And that's not something that we've seen from a linebackers coach in Detroit in a little while, unfortunately. He's really good. And they have talent this year. This is the best linebacking group that they've had in a very long time. It's better than when they had Tulloch and Levy. It's goes back to the days when number 54 was patrolling the middle of the field with good guys around him. Between Alex Anzalone, Jack Campbell, Malcolm Rodriguez, Derek Barnes, who's, for my money, the most improved Lion this offseason. They've got some guys, and you don't even go beyond that. Jalen Reeves-Maben is back. He's here for his special teams, but he's not terrible if he's your fifth linebacker. Trevor Nowaski from Saginaw Valley State, that guy belongs in the NFL, probably on the practice squad, but there's something there to work with. Anthony Pittman's been around for a long time, still fighting, still surviving. Like, this is a good group. And I think Lions fans, we are so preconditioned to hate our linebackers just reflexively. and deservingly. They've been terrible over the years. This is the best linebacking group they've had in a long time, and the way that Aaron Glenn has structured the defense gives these guys freedoms to play to the best of their abilities rather than having to make plays all over the field. Like, Anzalone doesn't have to go 25 yards down the field in coverage to make a play. Jack Campbell doesn't have to scrape off of a tight end to get into the back. Like, the way that the line and the linebackers interplay, I think, is really smartly conceived. And again, not something we've said about a Lions defense in a long time, including Aaron Glenn's own defense. He's changed and he's realized the error of his ways, and I think it's going to be a lot better.
Well, you just said something interesting. You said Derek Barnes is maybe the most improved Lion on either side of the ball. Well, where is he going to get? How much run is he going to get? Because Chauncey Gardner-Johnson's got to be out there. That extra DB is going to be out there. You've been talking about that for 2 years.
Yeah.
And with Anzalone and Campbell, is there room for Derek Barnes?
That's a great question. That's a good problem to have. But
Yeah.
One of the things that we've seen is that they are playing more of a 5-man front, and Barnes will be the 5th guy, and he's capable of playing linebacker. He's also capable of dropping off. We've seen Julian Okorafor do that. James Houston also does that role. You've even seen Hutch do it a little bit. So it's not like it's a given that that's Derek Barnes' role, but his pre-snap recognition and his ability to sift through traffic and get to the point of attack with a better angle and without being encumbered by blocks is something that has really taken a huge step this year. It's plainly obvious to anybody who's been in Allen Park. Like, it's his 3rd year and it's taken some time, but it's come. And I honestly, I don't know how they're going to play this out because they have talent there. Like, what happens with Rodrigo? Rookie sensation last year. He's pretty clearly number 4 on the depth chart right now. I mean, that tells you where the team has come and where the linebacking core is at.
Jeff Risdon with us from the Lions Wire. One more thing on linebackers, I guess, and you could call him that. He's kind of a hybrid player, but Julian Okorafor had the big night on Friday, and that was a guy that many had on the roster bubble. So how do you view that situation right now? And is there an odd man out on the edge spot, or is Julian maybe somebody they trade for, let's say, some linemen, offensive lineman depth as we get closer to the end of the preseason?
I will tell you, my hope is that what you just said is what happens, that they trade him for something useful elsewhere, because they are loaded. There is not room for both Julian and Romeo Okorafor and James Houston on the roster. There just isn't. And some of that is special teams. None of those guys play special teams. If you're a reserve player, you've got to contribute on special teams. Dan Campbell has made that very clear. Dave Phipp, the special teams coach, has made it incredibly clear. Like, the reserves have to contribute on special teams. None of those guys do. So that's an issue. Look, Julian was phenomenal Friday night. It was a great performance, but there's context. He's out there at the end of the game playing against 4th string Giants offensive linemen, and their 1st string isn't very good. That's the context that you have to have. Like, yeah, do that. Okay, now go do that against Brian O'Neill in Minnesota. Go do that against Darnell Wright in Chicago, and let's see what happens. But Julian's issue is that he's never played the run all that well, and he's always getting hurt. And I think if you have to hedge your bets, you're going to bet on the upside of James Houston over the less upside of what you get from Julian Okorafor. And Romeo Okorafor is more positionally versatile. He's better against the run. So I don't know where that sorts out, whether that means Julian gets cut or traded, but I hopefully they didn't trade him for something, because he's shown that he can play. When he's been able to stay on the field, he's an NFL player, a reserve, but a quality reserve, and there are spaces for him in the league. Whether he gets there via trade or cut, that's what we have to find out.
What about Brian Branch? Really impressive so far, but again, where will he get out there? When will he get out there? And what have you seen so far that you like?
Yeah, so Branch is effectively C.J. Gardner-Johnson's backup as the slot nickel safety corner hybrid. Just call him a defensive back. He has played some outside cornerback this summer. He has played some high safety when they've gone to a 1 safety look, which isn't very often. But he's good at everything. And I think we've seen joint practices. My goodness, he tore up the Giants, especially the first day. He was really, really impressive in his ability to anticipate routes, to jump into passing lanes, and also to realize when the quarterback isn't going to throw his way, to sort of cheat off that and make plays. Those are things that we didn't see from reserve safeties for a while. So they're going to bring him along slowly. And I've said this before, I'll say it again. It's great that a 2nd-round pick doesn't have to be a key player for this team. He can come along at his own pace. If he's good enough, they will find a spot for him on the field. Probably comes at the detriment of a guy like Will Harris or, possibly outside corner is going to be interesting because there's injuries and there's question marks there. And Branch did play that in Alabama. He has played it some in camp. I wonder if that's a role. look, normally when you're bringing along a rookie like that, you kind of want him to stick to one thing and like learn that one job well and make and build off that. They might have to try a little more creative things with Brian Branch to get their best 11 on the field on defense. And that's a very nice problem to have, and one that we haven't had to experience in Detroit in a while.
More with Jeff Risdon coming up. I want to ask him about maybe to pick a stud and a dud from training camp so far, and the Teddy Bridgewater effect. We will do that coming up next as well. We got to tell you about our friends at eBay Motors, which have teamed up with the Locked On Fantasy Football show host Vinny Iyer to bring you some of the best fantasy picks each week, all season long. Whether you're prepping for a draft or scouting the waiver wire, every week we're going to provide you players that are guaranteed to fit on your roster. So with draft prep going on and underway, the upcoming season, let's see who Vinny has picked out for us in this week's edition of eBay's Guaranteed Fit Fantasy Picks of the Week. We look at quarterback now, looking for a safe QB to take as a starter. Late after you wait on the position, then you can ride it out with the Cowboys' Dak Prescott, who, when healthy and getting enough volume, always comes through as a great fit in fantasy lineups. Prescott will be more effective, says Vinny, in the new offense under Mike McCarthy, and his weapons have been rebooted more to his liking with guys like Brandon Cooks. Dallas also won't be nearly as run heavy. We know this. Zeke is gone, restoring Prescott's solid numbers through the air. Vinny Iyer from Locked On Fantasy Football, going to help you win some fantasy championships. And eBay Motors knows a championship team is about each player being a perfect fit. And same with your vehicle. With eBay Guaranteed Fit, over 122 million parts and accessories for your vehicle right at your fingertips, you can make sure your ride stays running smoothly. Air filters, brakes, batteries, taillights, alternators, shocks, struts, you name it, eBay Motors has it. And they'll make sure it's the right fit for your car, because eBay Guaranteed Fit helps you understand exactly what part you need for your vehicle the first time. So go forth, switch gears, crank the AC, say goodbye to sweating if your ride needs a little fixing up, because now you know it'll always be set up for success from the get-go with our friends at eBay Guaranteed Fit. Everything your vehicle is calling for is just a click away. For the parts and accessories that fit your car, just look for the green check. Get the right parts, the right fit, and the right prices at ebaymotors.com. That's ebaymotors.com. Let's ride. eBay Guaranteed Fit. Only available to U.S. customers. Eligible items apply, and exclusions only. Jeff Risdon with us. Always read him at the Lions Wire, lionswire.com. Does a great job covering this team. Who stood out for you, Jeff? Give me some studs and maybe some guys in training camp that have not and maybe have been duds so far in your mind.
Yeah, we'll start on the positive because they're more fun to talk about. John Kaminsky doesn't get enough credit for how good he's been. I think he and Josh Paschal both have solidified themselves as starter capable. I'm not sure that both of them can start because they sort of play the same role, but they've both been really good. I think we've seen from Kaminsky, he is the ultimate facilitator. Aiden Hutchinson is so much better on the field when he's next to him. You know, Anzalone and Jack Campbell behind him, they're better when John Kaminsky's on the field. Like, he's not going to put up a lot of stats. He did get a sack against the Giants, but he's just really, really good at what he does, and he embraces it, and that's nice to see. CJ Gardner-Johnson, my goodness, he is shot out of a cannon, energy, agitation, talking all the time, talking trash all the time. I personally love it. I think it's a great welcome change. We haven't had a guy like that since Sue. Willing to get on teammates, to be negative towards them and like, push them. And you're seeing it coax that personality and the swagger. There's swagger coming out of Jerry Jacobs. Like, he's always been a little bit of a swagger guy. He's unchained now. Kirby Joseph, same thing. A lot more verbose and a lot more demonstrative. And I think it suits them very well. I think it plays to their personalities very well. So you got to give CJ credit for that. Kirby making that necessary growth that you wanted to see. Aleem McNeil's been a lot of fun. We got to go to offense. Jameer is everything that you wanted him to be. Very well as advertised. Man, he's been fun. They are an interesting group to try and cover. And because the defense has improved so much, the offense has had some issues at times, but it's not related to talent. It's related to the fact that the defense that they're practicing against has gotten better. And I think, honestly, practicing against the offense has made the defense better too. Goff has been fantastic too. Be remiss if I didn't mention how in command Jared Goff looks of what the offense is and what it's doing. he's so dialed in, man. It's fun to watch Goff be confident and comfortable in the pocket and delivering to all the weapons. He seems to make the right choice just about every time. As for guys that haven't been good, Matt Nelson jumps off the practice field. The alleged third tackle, you are constantly reminded that he was a defensive end at Iowa when you watch him play. He just has his development has been arrested. It just isn't going up there. First play of the game against the Giants, Nate Sudfeld threw an interception. I'll talk about Nate in a second. It might have been intercepted anyways, but Nelson's complete matador blocking made sure that it was intercepted. He's just not good enough as a backup tackle, and I think that's become clearly evident. I hope that the Lions see that, have an inkling that they do. Marvin Jones has been underwhelming, and I think a lot of us, a lot of fans have in their heads that Marvin Jones is coming back, conquering hero, comes back from Jacksonville, and that it's 2018, 2019 Marvin Jones again. He hasn't been that guy in camp. He just isn't able to get separation. Even like he was running with the 2s and the 3s a little bit in the joint practices, and the depth of the Giants secondary was covering it pretty well. Now, to his credit, he was making some fantastic contested catches, but that's not really why you brought Marvin Jones back. So I wouldn't say that he's disappointing, and I wouldn't say that he's in peril of losing his job just because I don't think anybody else is going to push him off. But curb your expectations a little bit. This isn't a guy who's going to catch 70 passes for the Lions this year. It just isn't there. Defensively, there's been times where it's hit and miss. Like Julian Okorafor has been hit and miss. James Houston has been hit and miss. His hits are phenomenal, though. Like, wow. He made a backside containment play where he chased down the running back. It wasn't Saquon. It was the backup for the Giants. But my goodness, that's a play that nobody else on the Lions is making. But he's still a little too dependent on that first step. And I would like to see him expand his game more. And they are trying desperately to get him to be able to do more so he can stay on the field. Because if he's just a pass rush specialist, you know how this goes, Matt. When he comes onto the field, they're like, "Oh, we can run right at that guy," because that we've seen that movie 1,000 times in a bunch of different teams. They're trying desperately to make sure that he's not that, and it's got mixed results. But he's working very hard at it, and when he does get a chance to rush the passer, it's pretty darn sweet. Only other guy that's one last. The kickers have been disappointing. That's an issue. We were hoping that Riley Patterson would be able to extend his range. I know Dave Fipp bragged about his leg. We're not seeing it. And John Parker Romo, he's great from 52, but he can't make the 25. That's a problem.
Let me put you on the spot. If you had to label Jameson Williams stud or dud so far, what would you say?
He's been both, quite frankly. I mean, I don't want to waffle on it, but like there are times where you see like, oh yeah, this is why the Lions wanted him. This is why the league fears him. But there's also times where like, dude, he ran a route and it was a designed post route. And it took him 3 extra steps to get around the defensive back because he was too busy showing off his footwork. Like he's got to work on the little things like that, because when he's where and when he's supposed to be and the ball is there, and that's been an issue, especially with Sudfeld throwing to him, he's spectacular. Like he does things that other people can't do. It's just a case of finding an even balance. Like, and I know our media coverage feels like this, but it really reflects the reality. He's either really great or really bad on every rep. Like there's just no one-of-the-mill reps for Jameson. And it makes it very difficult to cover him in a way that doesn't shade it one way or the other, because there's going to be terrible plays. There's going to be spectacular plays. That's Jamo. That's who he is. I've tried to come up with analogies from other sports with him. Like J.R. Smith comes to mind, like a guy like he's either going to be the best player on the floor or the worst player on the floor at any given time. And there's not a lot of times where he's just sort of blending in. That's kind of who Jamo reminds me of right now.
I know the fans, and I get a lot of comments, especially on the YouTube and even some Twitter, just, about why are you picking on him? But even the other day when Dan Campbell said it's back to square one, this is not a 4th or 5th round pick here. We're talking about a guy that they traded up to get in the 1st round. And I know he's coming off an injury, but it's not like he got in the field last year. So
he did.
I don't know if it's how you feel about that, Jeff, if it's fair or unfair, but I guess might be having a nitpick because there's not a lot of negativity, but that's the one that's still a giant elephant in the room right now.
It is. And the way I will say it is that every national reporter that comes in, the first question out of their lips is, what's up with JMO? And it's not them saying, oh, I think he's bad, or they're curious, because I think because of the way that he's such an inconsistent player, an enigmatic talent. Like, you want to get an angle one way or the other, and right now you just can't. We got to let it play out. We got to let him get on the field. Look, this is a guy who's 22 years old. He's caught less than 100 passes in his life. Let's let him play a little bit before we make definite conclusions about him. I've said this several times. I think he is a guy that he reminds me of Will Fuller, Ted Ginn, that kind of a player, where even if he's catching 2 passes for 22 yards in a game, the fact that he's on the field makes Amon-Ra better. It makes Sam Laporta better. It makes Khalif Raymond better, because his speed requires the defense to play that. I covered Will Fuller in Houston with that. DeAndre Hopkins was significantly better when Will Fuller was on the field with him, even though Will Fuller had a catch rate of 44%. JMO is better than that, but we need to see him consistently be better than that. And I'm still hopeful for him. I don't really care about the social media, whatever. I wish he would care less about it, quite frankly. But as far as like what he's like, I don't care. It doesn't matter to me. Just play football. And the football, again, sometimes it's really good and sometimes it's not. And finding that middle ground, I think, is going to be the key for how much JMO plays and how big of a fan, how much the fans accept him. Because there are some fans that are already way out on him, and there are some fans that are still like over apologetic for every single thing that he does wrong. Like, you got to find the middle, man. You really do.
All right, one more thing. I watched the entire Teddy Bridgewater media session yesterday, and that was really impressive.
He's great.
Yeah, what he's bringing to the table, and for the price that they got him at, and it's obvious they needed more room or more help in that room. But what do you think? And and if Goff goes down, how big of a drop off, or will there be any drop off if Teddy Two Gloves has to play?
Yeah, there's definitely a drop off. Goff is clearly way ahead now, and some of that is based on the fact that Teddy, and I gotta whisper this, he wasn't good in Miami last year, folks.
Yeah,
he wasn't. Doesn't mean that it was a Teddy problem. It might have been a Miami rookie head coach problem. I'll just say this about Teddy. We went in the locker room after the game Friday night, and he was in there, and he was already one of the guys, but not just one of the guys. He was like showing leadership in the locker room of a game that he didn't play in on a team that he'd been on for about 36 hours. I think that tells you all you need to know about Teddy Bridgewater and what kind of impact he's going to have on the team. Nothing but positives. He doesn't have to play, and he's still a major asset. I'm thrilled that they brought him in. Just getting to know him. I'd seen him before. I'd actually been in a press conference interview with him when he was with another team way back in the day. He's the same guy, man. This is a guy that you really want as a teammate, and I think that's something that Dan Campbell clearly valued. Nothing against Nate Sudfeld, who was very up and down in the Giants game, but Teddy just gives you so much more in the practice field and in the locker room that it's a fantastic addition. Love it.
Jeff, great to visit with you as always. Check out Jeff's work at the lionswire.com. Does a great job. Great catching up, my friend, and we'll do it again soon.
Thanks for giving me a call.
You got it. There he is, Jeff Risdon with us. Follow him on Twitter as well, at Jeff Risdon, Risdon. This has been a Tuesday Locked On Lions. Jags in for 2 practices Wednesday and Thursday.